to think about a little bit
Yeah.
going into the next round. And it looks like, yeah, we actually are hopping into it now. There's that countdown, which means that we are 5 minute delayed fully.
All right. I'm in. Yeah.
And I'm checking out the South American qualifiers to see. So there's Infamous, Not Today. I'm really excited to see how Not Today does. I think that's probably the team to watch out of this. So it's Leo Style, Kataro Hayama, King Tekka, Stinger, and Masuko.
That's a really for South America. That's really stacked.
Yeah.
Like those are some very um, high class players
Wait, was
for the
Stinger
region,
not
especially.
banned? I thought, or
I
no,
think
that's
he's
Van.
banned from being invited, but he might be able to qualify. He's been in an open qualifier stack every time since he's been.
Um,
So I'm not sure exactly what the conditions of that ban are, but I think he might be allowed to play if he comes in through open qualifiers.
Here,
I'm
I'm
not
checking it out
positive.
right now. No, he's not one of them. So I was wondering. I think that maybe there was something else with a different tournament. But it was the Elite Wolves team with Smash,
Yeah.
Mystico, and Van. I was thinking of Van, not Stinger. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
let's see who else is there. They've got Pichu, Monstros Vivos,
I
Prelude.
don't know that one.
The Infamous team does have some potential. You got Benjaz, Greedy, Excel, Wu, and Mandy. But I really think Not Today is going to be the team to watch out of, like, even in the regional qualifiers. That's the other thing, is that
Yeah.
in my eyes, I think that could be really, really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Traditionally, Infamous and Not Today are the two in terms of especially the teams that are coming through the open qualifiers. Those are the two clubs that tend to attract the best South.
and it looks like
I
right
generally
now
agree.
they're in the round of 128. So this is going to be our last round of NA for today, and then we are going to be switching over to South America tomorrow. We will probably as a Brewmaster comes out.
Oh, they are going to do exactly what. Well, no, the Invoker's gone, but
Yeah, the Invoker's out of there. Interesting. I'm curious to see that. I guess that it's a Monkey's brew. I feel like he does play a lot of those weird heroes. It could be a 747 brew. Um, let's see, not today. Yeah, not today has already moved on. They're in the round of 120. They're in the round of 64 actually already, so they've been burning through their matches.
yeah.
Union Gaming is through there as well. Prelude's moved on. And it looks like, where is Infamous?
So the thing about South America Open qualifiers is teams like aspiring teams of pub stompers or whatever that might sign up for open qualifiers in South America have even less opportunity to practice formalized gaming, like team-based gaming, than North America. There's at least North American players have like IXDL, AD2L. They used to have like CEVO and a lot of these other like middling tier leagues.
Hmm.
South American players, unless you're in one of the top 3 or 4 clubs, you basically get no at all except scrims with people that you know. So
Right.
I would expect the skill differential in terms of just experience alone to be much more heavily favored toward stacks of players that are known,
Yeah,
just because they have the experience.
like you say, there are players that play in the IXDL from South America, but
Mm-hmm.
those are like the very, very top
Right.
players from South America. Whereas you get some scrubs from NA that hop in IXDL all the time. Um,
Right.
not to beat around the bush too much, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. We'll see. We'll see how that ends up working out. I think that by the time we get into it, it's probably going to be a little bit better games that we'll be watching. Maybe not. Um, but
Here's to
tomorrow
hoping.
also, it's all going to be about on the same schedule. And the interesting thing is that South America actually might end faster than North America because in each of the qualifiers, it only goes to the round of four. So it's going to be a best of three in the quarterfinals, which is the round of six. It's the round of eight. So at the round of eight, it goes to a best of three, which is not something that's going to be the same in NA. So their day will end a lot earlier tomorrow, and our day is going to end a lot earlier today in North America. So
Schedule math. Put it all in your heads.
good stuff.
Complexity. If we've already jumped into a lot of games, I'm pretty sure they along with Veggies have been running the Abaddon Lone Druid as well. It allows them to siege onto towers really effectively. It gives them a lot of just overreach potential. They don't get punished as heavily because they have the Aphotic Shield. They can just stand on a tower with Curse of Avernus and it does much less damage, so they can push much earlier. and just force mistakes out of their opponents. Is basically what they've been doing, right? Just outmaneuvering, forcing mistakes, letting their opponents kill themselves.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that this hero Brewmaster in general, though when you play it, like it's a hero that's prone to outplaying people in the way that you're able to work around it, and then having that strong backbone of the Lone Druid as well. I'm kind of curious to see if it's going to be a Moo Lone Druid, or if we do end up seeing the 747 on it. I feel like mid
It
Lone
could go
Druid
either way.
has like become a lot more popular recently.
Yeah, it has, especially for like in these open qualifiers, because he is once again he's kind of a stompy hero. If you're really good with a lone druid and your opponents aren't as good as you are just mechanically, lone druid gives you much more leverage to lean onto your opponents than a lot of mid heroes do.
Well, I think that it's always good to give a little bit of love to the open qualifier team that nobody knows about. So, Scintillate, we've got Xeriscape, Renee, Adzantic, KRBZ, and Waffles, I believe is how I'm going to pronounce that, or Waffle X.
But you don't like Waffle 3X?
I guess, well, but there's no E at the end of it, though. Like, that's not, then it would just be Waffle.
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 I don't know.
I think that's probably the best way.
I guess that if it's a silent E, I'm not going to go into this, but
I like how we're having this discussion about waffles, but Xeriscape, super, and Adzantic, very clean.
There's only like
at least they're words.
There's only one like way to pronounce that, really. I feel like. Whereas
I guess
with
no,
waffle,
you're right. Xeriscape. Maybe it would have the it would have the little accent like Renee does. We know they know how to use accents, so we know that
they would have done it, and they didn't now. So Xeriscape, if that's how you pronounce your name, get good. You got to get better at your spelling. Step it up, man. Waffle X, that's what somebody is saying. Waffle X.
Wafflex.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. That sounds like a.
10 seconds remaining.
I stayed up too late and I'm watching infomercials and they're trying to sell me something for my triceps. The Wafflex workout body machine.
Well, I mean, maybe it works together with like breakfast food. Tune in
now.
It's like 19 payments of $19.99.
40 pounds of waffles. The mix, and it makes waffles while you're bench pressing. It uses the energy from your arms to, I don't know, make waffles. Anyway, I think Disruptor's a really good pick in the Timbersaw Ogre Match Keeper.
Oh, definitely. Ooh, and a Bloodseeker is the last pick, so that is probably going to be played in the position 4. I'm assuming, because then you have Brew probably mid, Lone Druid safe, Abaddon off lane. If that is indeed going to be the case,
Abaddon, though.
It definely could be. I think that it's just like more the NA thing to do off lane. But let's assume for a second that it's going to be the Bloodseeker in the support role. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on this, because I have a lot of thoughts. I love it.
Well, I tend not to like right-click heroes in support roles. There's a thin margin for error, at which point those heroes have a tendency to have a great difficulty catching back up or becoming useful. Bloodseeker does have a very nice silence, but he has no stun. Functionally, I guess you could count Rupture as a quality control, but it doesn't really give you the sort of control that's like a Lion.
And the last pick, Storm Spirit, you mentioned no stun. There's also no stun on Lone Druid, unless you count Savage Roar, which I don't, and Brewmaster ulti. So
That's it,
I mean,
but Disruptor's a really good hero in this one. So it's kind of a this and that.
The thing that I would mention, though, and the thing I really like about Bloodseeker in the support role, which granted could be what loses complexity of this game, is that
I really like it. It could be what loses in the game.
It definitely could.
So.
But I definitely like it too, and the reason is because this silence Bloodright is so freaking good, particularly if you have some type of setup whereas like if you can lay down Kinetic Field, Static Storm, and then a Bloodright on top of it, 13-second cooldown, it deals 240 pure damage, and the silence duration is up to 6 seconds. Like this spell on paper is amazing. For a while it pierced BKB as well, but now it's just non-dispellable, or it is dispellable, excuse me.
Yeah, so you do have to bear in mind, though, that you're talking level 4. A support Bloodseeker usually doesn't have the kind of levels to have that very early. And so that's part of the damage is that it's a really nice silence, and it does a pretty decent chunk of damage at lower levels too. I mean, it is pure damage, but you're probably not looking at getting 240 pure damage until heroes have a pretty decent clip of health, especially cores, right? The Storm Spirit, by the time Bloodseeker, in an even game, by the time the Bloodseeker has a level 4 blood, like the Storm should have a Bloodstone already, you know? It's makes it a little more difficult to leverage that damage in effective ways.
Just thinking about this lineup, though, and the way that it's sort of looking, you have a lot of potential here. Like, it's both Renee and the Storm Spirit who have like incredibly high mobility. It's hard to lock them down. We do see Monkey steal a bounty rune, so that's going to be a good amount of them going over into the favor of complexity. So that's something to be concerned about if I were these guys right now, definitely.
Yeah. Of course, you know, the Melon's Disruptor should mitigate almost all of that if it's well in position and they don't underestimate their opponents, but we're starting to get high enough in the bracket where it's theoretically possible that you have a stack of players that are smurfing or that are really quite good. I have no reason necessarily to believe that that's the case here, but if you're complexity, probably play it as though your opponents are good until you see that they're not, right?
Yeah. Also, real quickly, I'm going to mention this. Z-Freak did a really cool thing at the start, which was casting the Blood Right on the creep that he was hitting first, so that way he didn't take the bonus damage from all of the creeps, but instead he just got the bonus damage on top of him, which is something that I don't see a lot of Bloodseekers do.
You absolutely have to if you're running Iron Talon.
Right.
Right, because that bonus damage with the Iron Talon is fantastic.
Waffles knows. Oh no, Z-Freak, what are you doing here, buddy? Can he actually do anything?
Does he? Okay, yeah, now he can.
He's blocked in. Oh, yeah, he's going to eat through the trees. But still stole a last hit.
Well, one last hit is not the end of the world. For a second there, he was wrapped behind the trees. I'm not entirely positive right from the get-go that Bloodseeker even saw.
But so far, this is the right moves to be making if you're going against complexity for the side of, I can't remember what their name is, State. We'll call him Sate. They're, you know, going in, they're invading the jungle, they're not giving it easy to the Bloodseeker. He's going to have to move around a little bit, and their lanes are kind of going okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really the stage in the game where you start to worry about your lanes, unless you're just completely outskilled, say, right? Like, Moo is one-on-one against a Centaur Warrunner who does a lot of his damage with Return and Double Edge, so the Drunken Brawler is not nearly as effective in this lane. Your Bloodseeker, one of the problems with support / jungle Bloodseeker is that it takes a couple levels before he really gets going. So your lanes are a little weak in this moment. I wouldn't jump too far in the direction of, well, Zayt is doing it until we see that Bloodseeker rotate once or twice. If the Bloodseeker fails the first couple of rotations, then it might be bad signs for complexity.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about also like late game and the way that this draft looks, and I really do like the draft of the Radiant more. Like, I'm seeing the big plan, it feels like to me, is just get Lone Druid out of control, but they kind of have some of the tools to deal with even out of control Lone Druid in some ways. Like, if Storm Spirit's able to get on top of him, as long as he doesn't get completely shut down and maintains his farm, this to me feels like a winning draft in a lot of ways.
Wow, up top, it's going to be maybe... Oh, good body blocks from Moo, actually. He's going to turn this around.
Waffles, he wants it so badly, but he's not going to be able to do it. Bottom lane also was a lot of damage being dealt onto Monkeys. He was forced out into that shrine, and Waffles now in some trouble. No mana, is going to try and walk through. Jukes, is it going to happen? He's bloodlusting himself as well. Drops down into the low HP, so Bloodseeker moving around quicker, but he will be able to escape.
It was really greedy of him to go after Disruptor into this house instead of turning around to help against Moo. But his position, like his movement there was pretty good, as was KRBZ's. The movement overall, pretty strong. They could have given up a first blood there and they didn't. And he's going to self-deny in order to get back to the fountain as fast as he can.
I don't think that's worth it anymore, right?
I don't. Well, it depends on your level, I guess. Like, it's not worth it at level 1 anymore. If you're going to have to walk all the way back and you bought out, maybe it's about equivalent, but you probably just walk back. I haven't done the math, so I don't know for sure.
Because he like was over here by the bounty rune, so he could have gone over and Well, one, picked up
Yeah.
the bounty rune and not getting stolen by the lone druid, but also just gone back to the fountain. Oh, he's going to refill the bottle. All right.
Okay, that
That's
makes
okay.
sense.
I mean, he still could have done that probably found, but it's fine.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah.
Um,
He also didn't have his boots at the time, I think, so walking back would have been slower
okay.
than it would be now. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I haven't done the math. I know it's not worth it at level 1, but it scales, yeah, slightly differently if you're a support than it does if you're a core, right? Because cores get boots much earlier.
And now the ogre is kind of not outlived his usefulness, but it's certainly not the best in the world. He might be able to get this stack. We'll have to keep our eyes on it. Oh, run, little creeps, run! No, they blocked him. They didn't get either of those stacks. Oh, jeez. All right, don't worry. Nobody saw. It's fine. Yeah.
Nobody except us.
Exactly.
Who cares? Okay. Very, very deep 747. Storm does not have level 6 quite yet, though, so they won't be able to punish it. Actually, he's going to go back in. Wow, he's being very bold here.
And actually doesn't
This
even
is
get
brazen.
that creep. Oh, this is a nice
oh,
play.
Oh no!
That's a
747 walks back into it.
I mean, he's body blocking with the bear. He might be able to do this and like completely outplay them. They're trying to find the kill, Waffle, but not gonna happen. I mean, that's 3 heroes that had to move over towards mid. Granted, it was just supports, and your Timbersaw is able to solo against monkeys, but that support's not doing stuff for a little while.
Yeah, that's also farm that's not going into Lone Druid's pocket, right? He didn't really get anything for that. He got 2 neutrals for the equivalent of what was probably like 40 seconds of his time. So it's not like it was a cost-free exchange. It certainly didn't help his laning phase. Taking a look at his stats, so he is on top of the last hit, so he's got much more margin for giving up lane time than his opponents do.
Monkeys, again, taking a lot of damage. Does have level 6, hasn't used it yet for his ulti. If they can maybe burn him down a little bit further, could force it out of him. Although, I don't know. I think that, like, again, if I'm the Radiant right now, I'm feeling very comfortable in this game.
I wouldn't say I'm feeling comfortable because I know the quality of my opponents, but certainly the game is going pretty well. They are way behind on last hits, but in terms of like controlling their side of the map, controlling the pace of these fights, not getting completely outpositioned or outplayed, they're doing a very good job of that. And they are forcing complexity, with the exception of 747's dive. They're forcing complexity to show them a lot more respect than other teams have forced from complexity, which might mean that they have the potential to force complexity into mistakes later on.
Right. Yeah, and I guess the big problem, again, is going to be Z-Freak and him getting out of control. It does look like he's going for a Hand of Midas, so there's going to be some rune to punish here, as the Stampede is going to mean that, well, the Centaur is not going to get out of that. Waffles does draw first blood on 747 in the meantime. Over there in the mid lane, they'll lose the Centaur, but get a much bigger kill. That's huge.
Yeah, it's ends up being a pretty substantial trade, but to be fair, a lot of the gold ended up on the Ogre Guy.
Yeah.
So it didn't end up on a core. If that gold had ended up on, for example, the Storm Spirit, that would have been a lane-breaking advantage, right? The Storm Spirit would be getting the blood so much earlier.
And I guess it is just going to be inherently a very snowbally draft by Sate, considering you have 2 Bloodstone builders on your team. So you start losing out on a couple of those. I think it's one of those games where you need to build survivability. Like, you just have to on these heroes before you go for the Bloodstone. Maybe Storm can get away with like something else, but I feel like a Yule Scepter might be a good middle ground for him after going for Arcanes. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think for him it really is going to end up depending on how comfortable he is on this. Because if he can rush a Bloodstone early, he's going to be able to pick off this Bloodseeker much more easily in the back of fights. He's going to be able to move in onto the Disruptor a little more fearlessly. The question is he going to be able to dodge Static Storm? Is he going to be able to dodge Blood Red? If he can do those 2 things, there's not a lot of reason for him to not get the Blood.
Melons, he rotates in, tries to pull him back in. Static Storm there as well. Waffles is in the area. They already popped the Stampede. They use the ulti now and going to be able to bring down this Ogre most likely as well, as he ended up coming in for the save. Not happening. And mid lane as well, they do find 1 kill, and there's going to be the Storm Spirit going down. So a good rotation in from Z-Freak to secure the, well, at least counter kill against the Lone Druid.
Yeah, and that's a much bigger kill exchange in Complexity's favor than the previous kill was in the favor of their opponents, because the Brewmaster got a pretty sizable chunk of that. Anytime you can put the gold on your cores before they get their first item, you're headed in the right direction. Renee is going to try to like scare them away from this tower, maybe trying to push them off long enough to deny it, but will just instead be forced back to the fountain by Disruptor. So.
Honestly, it might be for the best. I don't know if he would have been able to survive against all of those heroes there. I guess it's 2 strength heroes that would have been in the area too. But I feel like they need to start getting something done with these other heroes, like either taking down towers, like counter-pressuring or something along those lines, because as of now, you just lose a tower and you don't get much out of it. It hurts pretty bad, I think.
Yeah, it's they exchanged a couple kills in order for the opportunity to lose their tower, which is a really bad position to find yourself in at this stage in the game. They're going to try to stop Moo here. Waffles is going to soak up that invisibility, and Moo should be going down.
Oh, jumping away. They do get the silence down, and the static storm as well. They're able to bring down one. Z-Freak killing off the Centaur, but now slowed up. He's out of mana, and he still have a decent amount left here on the Storm Spirit, but not wanting to dive too deep for it. Turns his attentions now onto Swindle. They throw out the Chakram as well. They are going to be able to kill off Swindles here. So a double for the Storm this early on.
Yeah. That's big trouble. That's the exact sort of exchange I was just saying would be really, really good at this juncture in the game. Storm Spirit being able to move, and he is going directly into.
All right.
Storm Spirit getting that Bloodstone before like 13 minutes, which is doable if he gets 1 or 2 more kills during this period without dying.
Oh my God!
He's gonna try to move on to Z-Freak.
He needs to be recalled right now. coL had already used it though. He has it back up in a second, but he has to get out of here. They pull him back in. The Glimpse Storm. No, he dove deep and gets punished.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to get away from a Bloodseeker Disruptor combo. Like if you are going to run a Bloodseeker support, I think Disruptor is one of the best heroes to do it with. Just because of that synergy, right? You've got great vision everywhere. The Disruptor can pull people back. It just works out really well. It makes up for some of the deficit from Bloodseeker in terms of his own ability to control opponents, or lack thereof.
It all comes back again. Like this ward, they were expecting that they were going to be able to make something happen with it, but because they had vision there on the Bloodseeker, but it didn't end up working out for them, and they might even be able to get the D ward here as well. Top lane, Monkeys, he does not have his ulti here, so this should be a kill. Oh, denies himself. Nice play by Monkeys.
Yeah, and what's really a bummer about that, too, is that now Melons knew that there was a ward there, cut down their ward with about 4 or 5 minutes left on its time. Yeah.
That ends up being oh so often the reason you end up losing games is vision. Panda goes in. They've got Ruptured. Renee just going to try and TP out. They don't want to commit the ulti for it, and so he does escape.
That's a good call. Just they don't need that kill badly enough to use Primal Split. Waffles is going to try the same thing down bottom. It will not work for him, and he is out of here.
Yeah. Well, that's double kills for 747, and now the train is going to start to roll. And it was looking good for a while there for the Radiant, but they're starting to get outclassed pretty consistently. It's still only a net worth lead of about 5,000 gold and 6,000 experience, but wait, neutral creep? Oh no, did he? Was that? That was definitely not intentional, right?
I didn't catch it. I was watching this mid push.
And now also Storm Spirit possibly in some trouble. Is going to be able to get away from there. All right, yeah, this is going from a little bit bad to worse. They still have comeback potential, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Once again, the Storm Sphere getting up a Bloodstone would be an opportunity. If he had not died from that very aggressive jump onto the Bloodseeker, he'd probably have it by now, if he just spent that time farming. And that would have given him the potential to maybe pick people off. They need some ability to pull Complexity apart, though. And it's very difficult. Like a rigored, well-tested, well-trained team that plays against very, very high-skill opponents regularly is hard to frazzle. Yeah. But being able to get your opponents to make a mistake, to feel uncomfortable with the fight, is really important if you're playing with a Timbersaw or with a Storm Spirit, right? Really, the idea is to just throw them into Bedlam so that the Storm Spirit can kick around the edges of the fight.
Oh, there's going to be the first Rupture being used. Renee pulled back in, man. That's a lot of damage being dealt. Is going to drop. So they take down the Timber and the Ogre. And just no real worry at all for complexity. They know their lineup is stronger. They know they can push right now. There's nothing that Radiant can really do.
Yeah. This is the sort of thing where in your pubs, or probably even in scrims, where the team state was going up against opponents, right? Having a item advantage that is a couple of minutes old, 1 or 2 minutes of item advantage, doesn't normally make a huge difference in pubs because the coordination just isn't there. It's not like the second we get our level 1 items, now we have to go charge before opponents get the level 1 items, and that advantage is often wasted, once again, from lack of coordination. But when you play Complexity's level, a 1 item advantage at, like, the first item advantage specifically, that is game breaking. If 2 of your heroes have a first item advantage, you can do whatever you want.
Well, and the other thing too is you mentioned the need for the Radiant to kind of pull this team apart and try and throw them off kilter, and that has never really been what happens for Complexity. It's not as if, I mean, you think back throughout a lot of their iterations, and it was very rare that it would be a problem where like they just end up, completely throwing the game because of tilting. I mean, with the exception of the Yule Scepter, that was like the only time that happened.
Other than a couple of TI plays.
Right, that was the one. But besides that, like it tends to be more that they just get outplayed. And so I don't know. I think that might not be the optimal strategy to try to take these guys down, as it looks like there's some rotations up top here. Renee going to go outside of the silence. Z-Freak, they could still think about diving for some type of a play, but it looks like, I think this is a good decision right now by the Radiant to pressure.
Yeah, they know they're not in a position in order to fight. They're neither the mechanically as skilled as Complexity, nor do they have the game advantage in terms of state. So yeah, make a trade, even if it's not a favorable trade, just get some level 1 items up, because that will give you something. Now we have Blink on the Centaur, now we've got Bloodstone, and they're going to try to reveal those items for an advantage.
Well, the recall pull-through play, and now they're on top of them. The Static Storm's already been used. They do still have Brew Split if they want to use it, but certainly not necessary, at least for the moment, as Tier 3 tower goes down. They really don't have the damage to burn through these guys, and Monkeys pops his ulti, just walks away. The Stomp going to connect. Melon's now also in some trouble. Moo gets the counterplay, though, has used his ulti, and now Storm out of mana, in trouble. Can they get anything? They actually use the bonus mana onto the Centaur. I feel like that might have been a misclick, and maybe they can bring down 747. It's not looking good, though. They just get another lift up. 747 down to very low HP, but is going to get the Aphotic Shield on top of them, as well as a miscoil, and they're just forced to back out again. So
the Chakra Magic onto the Centaur was presumably so that he could double edge right before he died, because it gives it a 0 cooldown, right? So if he can double edge twice right before he dies, he could get a kill. He didn't. It looked like the communication just wasn't quite there for that. Timbersaw showed up way late to this party too. Yeah. Renee's TP was on cooldown, and she did not get recalled by the Keeper Light. So they were fighting that for the most of that fight. They were fighting at 3-on-5 and then 4-on-5. Really, really bad to be doing when you're sitting this far behind.
And I might sound crazy for this, but I still don't feel like this game is over.
No, it's
like there's a tier 3 that's down the bottom lane, but they didn't get barracks. Like you said, the fight happened without the Timbersaw throughout it, and now you're getting these Bloodstones online. They did double smoke, which isn't the play. But you can recall in with coL. If they catch anybody with this, you're also going to be able to get your Bloodstone finished for the Timbersaw, which would be huge. And now Moo does not have his ulti. They're going to pull him back in a second, starting to drop low, and Moo is going to die. So, you get a couple of these pickoffs. It's looking a little bit worse for Complexity.
Yeah, the Complexity are still in a pretty good position. They've got over 10,000 net worth in 15 minutes. They might have to force out an ultimate here on the Abaddon, but probably is fine. He's going to turn back around.
There's a nice silence, but nobody's actually in it, so kind of a terrible silence, and Renee's still going to be caught there by the oh my god, they actually ended up finding the kills. I didn't think he was going to be able to get away from that, but for some reason ended up getting caught, and they get a trade 2-for-1, but Storm's still alive.
Yeah. So just to give you some idea, I don't know what it's like post 7.00. The stats aren't there, but the amount of gold lead that these guys have, if I recall correctly, on a traditional patch would in a professional game be something like a 97 to 98% win rate. And that's against opponents that are, professional opponents, some level professional opponents. So I would say Complexity would really need to throw this game to not be in a position to win it here.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they can't lose. That any team can have ball in hand and throw it away, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. And you're getting in, like you said, Scotty going to be picked up shortly for Lone Druid. There isn't that next tier of items that's up now. Honestly, I feel like if they want to take this, right now Radiant need to get super aggressive until I guess the Aegis is on too, so they kind of close out that window. Yeah, they might have just lost their window to do it. Max Bloodlust, it's not great. They have great high ground defense.
Yeah. This is probably a moment where you just give up the outer tier tower. You try to get as much as you can in exchange in terms of, honestly, somebody should be out farming and waiting for the Keeper Light to recall.
It looks like that's what Storm is doing. They throw the Bloodlust on him and he runs down here.
There we go. Yep.
Again, he is going back for an Orchid. Feeling like he needs to be able to finish that off and get some real damage in, although I still like the idea
Orchid
of the Yules.
Doesn't help very much, to be honest. Right, Orchiding the Lone Druid doesn't really do anything. Orchiding the Abaddon doesn't really do anything. The Bloodseeker is going to open the fight with everything he needs to cast, probably. So really the Brewmaster is the only one you're going to stop from doing stuff with the Orchid, and I guess the Disruptor. But Disruptor shouldn't be your prime target either at this stage in the game.
coL has Aghanim Scepter now, and a little bit of miscommunication there. The Blinding Light pushback as the Hoof Stomp came in, and now need to get out of there. Double Rupture, Renee trying to TP out, but there's going to be the Savage Roar. Immediately buys back into this, and they need to find something real big, real quick. Melons getting gone on by the Storm Spirit. They get the lift up the Panda, able to find him. There it is, into the Storm Kinetic Field, and that's going to be a dead Storm Spirit. Back in 10 seconds, if they can manage to hold on that long, but their bottom barracks is already gone. Another Blinding Light pushback. This is going to be, well, 2 big deaths. They have to find something here. They just need to so badly. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, though, unless Storm Spirit can somehow find it, but he just might end up going down himself. They get the recall in. Monkeys, all right, that's 1 dead. But they do also end up losing the Ogre, and now Renee trying to take down Melons. Does manage to find him, so that's a double kill, but it's also a dieback, and Storm Spirit needs to escape before things turn worse.
Dieback with the Bloodstone is pretty harmful to you.
And
this Shrine is not going to be enough to save the Centaur. He's going to have to run all the way back to the fountain.
Yeah, it was a nice attempt to try and save the coL there, but 8 to 20, and yeah, net worth at this point firmly into their favor. Storm Spirit does the little recall trick again, or rather TP trick, but still in trouble.
Yeah, here's what I will give to our Radiant team. Right, they have stood up to Complexity, I think, really admirably. They've made some mistakes. It looks like at some points in time in this game they maybe tilted a little bit, but in terms of laning phase, they did much better than any of the other teams we've seen so far today. They have been making some of the right decisions that are kind of tough calls in terms of taking that tier 1 in exchange for their own tier 2 when they knew they couldn't fight in order to get base items up. Mechanically, they just weren't there, and the big thing I think is that teamwork. Their teamwork just isn't anywhere near up to par what Complexity's is, but Complexity does this full time. Right. So you would expect their teamwork to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's a tough one. I think that they've proven that they're. I mean, this is, I think, the closest match that Complexity has had yet, where it was looking good at points, but at the end of the day, it is still the first day of the Open Qualifiers. It would be a shock to anybody, I think, if Complexity got knocked out.
It'd be a real bad sign for Complexity. I mean, in theory, it's possible for any team to be knocked out in a best of 1, right? But if Complexity actually get knocked out in a best of 1 short the round of 16, that's a real bad sign for the state of the organization. We'll put it like that.
Yeah. Clearly not going to happen, at least for now. I wanted to double check real quickly where we're at on this is the South American qualifiers. We'll do the North American. Click now, because I believe that this is their last match for today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and in fact, they do finish in the next couple minutes because my bracket has updated. That
All right.
complexity are there. So
Well, they won. Spoilers.
spoiler alert.
This
Yeah,
one pretty
I
much
don't think
over.
that's a shocker to anybody out there.
All right, let's check it out, though, because we do have a Veggies game, which we will continue on. You can check this one out in client if you want. Just follow that watch server one that we showed before. But now, it's time to switch over. I'm sure that people are very upset right now that I'm switching over, but you know what? Deal with it.